I grew up playing games and watching movies on these little shiny discs, which are slowly becoming obsolete. Well, recently the topic of ownership of physical media has once again resurfaced on the internet. Just a few weeks ago, this post from JoeBlow.com went somewhat viral on social media, where folks were understandably frustrated with the fact that 28 Days Later, a very popular movie from the early 2000s, was nowhere to be found on any of the streaming services, ever since Hulu lost their rights to the movie, meaning it was completely impossible to watch it online anywhere. Now, if these were the 2010s, right before the streaming era took over the world, this wouldn't have been a problem at all. You could just walk into your closest movie retailer and get yourself a physical DVD copy of the movie, and that would solve all your problems completely. But that might soon become increasingly difficult to do, because as you may have already heard, Best Buy announced last year that they will no longer sell DVDs and Blu-rays this year, and other retailers might follow suit if the demand keeps decreasing. In other words, big companies and businesses are signaling to us that physical media is dying. The film industry, the gaming industry, and the music industry are all entertainment mediums where content is being sold as physical media products. Now, what does that mean for all of these industries? Well, in this video, we're going to try to find out. Now, I do want to add that at the time of this recording, 28 Days Later is once again back on the streamers for fans to watch. But how did this happen? How did it suddenly reappear back on the platform? Well, I believe it has everything to do with past summer's big blockbuster movie, Oppenheimer. At the time of this recording, it is official. Oppenheimer has won this year's Oscar for the Best Picture of the Year, and more importantly, Cillian Murphy has won this year's Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role. Now, what does this all have to do with our story, you might ask? Well, it just so happens that the movie that seemingly launched Cillian Murphy's career was 28 Days Later. Heck, that's where I first saw the dude, and I have admired this actor ever since. Now, Cillian is not some random unknown actor. Fans of the TV show Peaky Blinders have already admired him for years, but most recently Oppenheimer, and now this prestigious award, has once again garnered fresh interest about the actor, most likely even from folks that were not familiar with this actor before. And what does naturally tend to happen when such fresh interest arises? Obviously, the people who admire the actor tend to want to see more of his stuff, especially his early work where he is young and handsome and full of energy and chasing zombies. So no wonder this movie is back in popular demand. And so in this particular situation, what ended up happening was this viral post generated an outrage big enough that it got some attention from a random streaming service called Sling TV, and somehow they managed to secure the rights to it and put it up on their platform. Such a random place for such an acclaimed movie to be streaming on, if you ask me. But hey, at least the movie is still alive digitally and streaming somewhere legally. But it could have been worse. We are now in an era where movies can literally disappear from the face of the planet and become unavailable completely. Take the 2016 movie Hush, for example, created by Mike Flanagan. Users took to Reddit to express their disappointment that following the expiration of their 7-year licensing deal with Netflix, the movie is now removed completely from the platform, and it is no longer found on any streaming platforms anywhere, and the movie was never released in any physical media format. So the movie has basically ceased to exist. It has died. It's dead. It's so crazy to think how drastically things have changed in the past years. We now get our movies from streaming services like Netflix, we get our games from digital distribution services like Steam, and we get our favorite music tracks from music streaming services like Spotify. And yet, we don't own any of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about owning the rights to the piece of a digital artwork. I'm talking about owning a copy of that digital artwork in your possession for you to consume. I'm sure you've seen a lot of streaming platforms nowadays offering you a chance to buy or rent a movie on their service. Now, what exactly is the difference? Well, here's how it goes. If you rent a movie, you have a certain period of time in which you have to watch the movie, otherwise it gets taken away from you. And usually it's like 48 hours or something, which is fine. We all know how renting works, right? But what happens if you choose to buy the movie? Well, my friends, then you get to watch it for eternity. Really? Eternity? Is that what you're saying? Well, yes, but there's an asterisk. Actually, sorry, my mistake. There's actually 2 asterisks to that statement. 2 asterisks. So wait, what does that mean? What are you saying? Can I download the file and watch it on my computer? No, you can't have the file. You have to watch it strictly on our streaming platform. Okay, alright, so can I at least watch it offline when I'm on a plane or something? Maybe, I don't know, if the streaming platform allows that option. Some of those streaming platforms don't have that functionality. Okay, can I at least share the movie between multiple devices? Are your other devices located at the same area, sharing the same Wi-Fi connection with the same IP address? No, my other laptop is at my parents' house. I sometimes go there over the weekends. Then no. That's basically asterisk 1 in a nutshell. No downloadable files, and no freedom to take the movie with you anywhere you go. What about asterisk number 2? Well, asterisk 2 is what the lawyers like to call unforeseen circumstances. So what happens tomorrow if Netflix goes out of business? Do you still somehow get to keep the copy of the movie that you bought? Well, of course not. If the platform goes up in flames, then your movie burns down with the entire house. But hold on. Netflix will never go bankrupt, right? Well, we'll see. Okay, but let's say the titans of the industry are immortal and they will never die. In that case, my movie library should be safe, right? Well, in 2018, back when buying movies on iTunes was still a thing, there was an interesting article about the technical details of movie ownership on the iTunes platform and how it correlates to the rights Apple had with the movie studios. You see, in iTunes' case, if you bought a movie title, but you did not specifically download it on your physical device, should Apple's rights to the movie ever expire, the movie would disappear from your digital library without any prior warnings. In a more interesting scenario, if you downloaded the movie in country A, but then you moved to country B, where Apple does not have the same rights to that movie as in country A, you would also lose the ownership of the movie unless you switched your settings from country B to country A, and then you could somehow download it, given it would still be available back in country A, and it was just a whole mess, and it still is. The fight between the giant streaming platforms trying to acquire ownership rights to certain popular movies and TV shows has just gotten worse over the years, and we, the consumers, are just thrown in the middle of it all. In a world dominated by subscription service models, for the sake of convenience, we have sacrificed the most important part of media consumption, which is ownership. Now, with all these examples, clearly this is not what ownership is, right? I would like to think that true ownership means having a copy of that digital media at your disposal for you to consume anywhere and any time. If anything, I would change those buy and rent buttons on those streaming services to say something like rent for 48 hours or rent indefinitely, while the platform is still operable. Now let me ask you this. What would happen to your music collection if Spotify ceased to exist, like tomorrow? Or to your game collection if Steam went up in smoke tomorrow? Pun intended. You would arguably lose access to all of your favorite songs and playlists and all your favorite games, because there's no physical copy of that content. No physical discs for you to take with you to a cabin in the woods to disconnect from the World Wide Web. This is an issue that many YouTubers have already made videos about. But it's not just a topic that regular middle-class consumers are frustrated with. Even A-list filmmakers like the previously mentioned Christopher Nolan and Guillermo del Toro and even James Cameron are talking about it. Nolan himself encouraged his fans to buy the physical copies of his movies, to embrace, quote, a version you can buy and own at home and put on a shelf so no evil streaming service can come steal it from you. He later clarified that statement in a Washington Post interview, saying, "There's a danger these days that if things only exist in the streaming version, they do get taken down. they come and go, as do broadcast versions of films. So my films will play on HBO or whatever, they'll come and go, but the home video version is the thing that can always be there so people can always access it. James Cameron seems to feel a similar sentiment. In a Variety interview, he stated that the streamers are denying us any access whatsoever to certain films, and I think people are responding with their natural reaction, which is, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to watch it anytime I want. And Guillermo del Toro took it to X to say, if you own a great 4K HD Blu-ray, DVD, etc. of a film or films you love, you are a custodian of those films for generations to come. Okay, but let's switch gears for a moment and let's talk about another issue that the streamers and various people are trying to tackle, and that is the environmental impact. And rightfully so. If we compare streaming to a production of a CD, DVD, or vinyls, then streaming does seem to be a bit of a greener option, but surprisingly, not by a lot. According to this Ars Technica article, researchers found that while it's more eco-friendly to watch shows on Netflix compared to a disc, streaming has made media so available that these benefits can be lost due to repeated visits to the binge-worthy section. And easy access to a huge array of movies and TV shows means that people might be watching more content online and are thus using more energy and producing more emissions. And they further concluded that if hard media are not discarded and continue to be distributed as used products, then resource consumption is curtailed because there is no need to manufacture new hard media, and this is an efficient way to reduce CO2 emissions from hard media. However, it is difficult to determine how long hard media will be used throughout its life cycle. So even with the environmental argument, physical media still seems to be the better option. But okay, let's play the devil's advocate for a moment, and let's say that in the future, streaming overtakes all physical media and the physical media market dies out completely. In that scenario, we would still be left with the frustrating issue of digital ownership, which is actually not real ownership. So in that hypothetical scenario, how would we solve that? Well, I got a simple solution for you folks. It might sound crazy, but hear me out. My proposed solution is: let the people download the file. Let them just download the file. Just let them download the file, okay? And no, I don't mean some weird streaming platform dependent version of the file. Just a plain old MP4 or MOV, okay? Something you can actually copy on your physical devices and play back on a good old VLC player or something. What's that you say? Piracy concerns? Now look, if I'm being realistic, I know that the streaming platforms will never allow this. In the fears of the files being illegally distributed across peer-to-peer sharing platforms, but let's just be honest here. Getting a downloaded file in your possession is no way different than inserting a recently bought DVD in your laptop and just dragging the files onto your local hard drive. These networks have always existed, piracy has always been present, and no big Hollywood studio has ever gone bankrupt because of it. Heck, even The Last of Us was the most pirated show last year and it still made a ton of money. Piracy has always been and will always remain an ongoing issue no matter the format of the media. So in a new era where physical storage has been replaced by cloud storage, it just seems fair to give people the option to store their favorite media files on their digital storages, which would just be a digital version of a huge Criterion Collection closet anyway.
Wow, this has just been such a pleasure. I'm such a lucky boy. I can't wait to go home.
The way I see it, there's simply no justifiable argument against that solution. My naive hope is that one day we will live in a world where once we click that big shiny buy button on any of those large media service platforms, we will get a shiny downloadable reusable file in return. And this goes for all media, whether it's music, movies, or games. The story is just the same. But those are just my 2 cents on the topic. What do you guys think of all of this? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like this video, be sure to give it a big juicy thumbs up. And if this is your first time stopping by, be sure to click that shiny subscribe button below as well. Sadly, I cannot guarantee any downloadable files in exchange for clicking that, but I'll be sure to continue posting similar videos like this, so I hope you'll stick around. So with that said, thank you guys for watching and I will see you next time.